Number 1. The lack and/or change of identities. Yes, this is roughly saying the same thing that I've been talking about in the past videos, but that's because this subject is the biggest problem for these films. That Michael Bay and the other makers of these films either don't really use any real development to give the defined identities of individual Transformers, and whenever they do, they either just lazily throw it in or just change who they are, sometimes altogether. I've talked about this already with characters like Shockwave, Megatron, Starscream, Ironhide, and Optimus, but the list goes on with characters that have also been poorly used. We also have the female Autobots, RC, Chromia, and Elita 1, where only RC and Elita 1 speak, and it's just one line each, and they're called the RC Twins, even though there are 3 of them. We also have Mirage, whose name was changed to Dino, on top of having an Italian accent. Then there's Jolt, who was only in 2 scenes and doesn't say any lines at all. And just because the real Wheeljack is a scientist and an inventor, they changed his name to Q to pay tribute to the character Q from the James Bond films, and also give him the face of Albert Einstein. Ugh. Okay. What they either don't realize or possibly don't truly care about when it comes to this franchise is that one of the biggest strengths about the Transformers is the characters themselves. It's not just about how one guy can turn into a police car, or another turns into a tank, or a stereo, or a helicopter, or a truck, or whatever. It's not even always just about them punching and shooting each other. It's about the Transformers as individual characters with their own likable identities, Autobot and Decepticon alike. I'm not saying that every character they ever created, even before Bay's films, is likable, but what has made kids and adults become attached to the Transformers in the past, with characters like Optimus, Megatron, Bumblebee, Starscream, Soundwave, Shockwave, Ratchet, Ironhide, and so many others, is how both comics and shows, in some way or another, have developed them in a way that makes them likable as individual characters. But what proves that people shouldn't really pay so much attention to Bay's movies is that hardly any real focus is made to these characters, and whatever they do to them when they are focused on turns out horrible. The Twins and the Wreckers are not full of stereotypes like they are in the films. They are completely different characters, and some of them have their own unique storyline. Optimus doesn't shout something like, "Give me your face." Megatron isn't someone who can be bullied and be a lackey to anyone. Wheeljack isn't so similar to the character Q from the James Bond films that they have to give him the name Q along with the face of Albert Einstein. The list goes on and on. What time could have been used to show how likable they are with their relationships with each other, on top of other things that have to do with the Transformers, such as the stories or the lore and other things like that, is focused on bad human characters, bad comedy, misused lore, needlessly new Transformers, and changed identities. So instead of giving us the characters and other things that people are emotionally attached to, or might want to know more about, we get all of these changes and totally different characters. Gee, does that sound familiar? Oh sure, they may have kept important characters like Optimus and Megatron and have given them a little bit of development, but when it all comes down to how much focus they gave the characters that people like and what they did to them deep down, they were really making the same big fat mistake that was made when the animated movie came out. Most of the other problems I've pointed out, and a little bit more, ultimately lead to why this is truly the biggest insulting screw-up among the Transformer films.